Welcome back to Public Counsel's Giving Tuesday Facebook Live. I'm David Bubas, Director of Philanthropy at Public Counsel, and we've had some great sessions already with Margaret Morrow and Mark Rosenbaum and Nisha Vyas and her staff, and now I have the pleasure of introducing Jill Thompson, who is the Directing Attorney for the Audrey Irmas Project for Women's and Girls. We are thrilled that this project got off the ground about, is it a year and a half ago?
Yep.
About a year and a half ago. And we're going to hear from Jill about her work with women and girls and how we are assisting that population with their legal issues and how it's fitting into the rest of the organization. So Jill, welcome. Tell us a little bit about your background. How did you come to us at Public Counsel?
All right. Well, my background is a little unusual, but I did come to Public Counsel about a year and a half ago now. After law school, I spent a few years in private practice, litigation practice, doing mostly employment law. But I had always had an interest in women and girls' rights, and I had an opportunity to join a human rights organization in Eastern Europe. And so I went there and I spent a couple of years working on women's human rights issues and the transition of Eastern European countries to the EU, working especially on human trafficking issues and the impact on women. And then from there, I ended up moving to Southern Africa and spending another 10 years working on women's human rights there. So I've done a lot of work on gender-based violence and human trafficking and other issues that impact women and girls. And so I have a real, passion and commitment to trying to address their needs and enforce their rights, whether it's internationally or here in the United States.
Terrific. Well, you were certainly well suited for the project. So tell us a little bit about the project. It's not quite 2 years old.
No. We're still pretty new, but what's exciting is the amount of things that we've already been able to do and the lives that we've been able to impact just in a relatively short period of time. As you know, Public Counsel has been working with women and girls in various capacities forever, whether it's through our immigration program, our child rights program, but we never had a program to specifically look at gender issues and particularly gender discrimination issues. And so what's been great about this project is we've been able to focus on a couple of areas that have not really been addressed, particularly in the Los Angeles area. And those are issues mostly relating to economic empowerment, economic justice, and security. And that can entail everything from workplace rights to just helping girls stay in school, because we know that girls who graduate from school and move on to secondary education have a much, much better chance economically, professionally. They're less likely to end up living in poverty and raising their children in poverty. So all of these things are interconnected, but that's what we've been trying to focus in on. So in the Audrey Irmas Project, we have a couple of different tools available to us. A big focus is on providing direct legal services to individual women, sometimes groups of women who work for the same employer. And then we also do various advocacy efforts. We've been working on trying to push legislation through the state of California that relates to strengthening sexual harassment laws, for example, in the workplace, trying to make workplaces more family-friendly, expanding the number of people who can take parental leave, for example, and then also looking at issues around small businesses and opening up small business opportunities for low-wage women and immigrants as well.
Great. Do you have any individual stories that might illustrate your work that you can share at this time? And if not, that's okay.
No, I actually love to tell stories. I think I'll tell you two stories, and one of them is specifically from our Workplace Justice Project, so those are the cases that come to us often through our community partners or through other legal aid organizations. They identify somebody who has an employment-related project, and then they send them to us. The other way which we take clients is we often have women clients coming through public counsel through the different project areas. So let's say they've been evicted, or they are in the guardianship clinic, for example. But in the course of providing those services, we find out that they have a lot of other legal problems too. And so what often happens is the attorneys will refer them to me, and we'll see if we can address some of those issues and help them, get back on their feet again. So the first story I want to tell you about is about Nancy. Nancy came to us earlier this year. She's a Salvadorian immigrant and a single mother, and she had been working for about 5-6 years as an administrative assistant for a small nursing home, a small nursing school, and it was a family-owned business. And unfortunately, there was some changes in the staffing, and over the last year and a half, her supervisor was, sexually harassing her. And it, started out as comments and some, advances, and it proceeded pretty quickly to, physical assault, threatening her, and then even at one point attempting to rape her. And, it was incredibly traumatic for her, and for a long time she just didn't even know what to do. She didn't know where to go for help. She didn't know what her rights were. And when she finally came to us at Public Counsel through one of our partner organizations who referred her to us, we explained to her that, she does have rights under California law, not only for the sexual harassment, but also in terms of other workplace issues and wage and hour violations, things like that, because this guy was not only sexually harassing her, he wasn't paying her overtime, he had misclassified her as an independent contractor, so that when she did finally quit the job, she couldn't get unemployment insurance. I mean, there were so many ways in which this woman was damaged by this one supervisory employee. So we've been helping Nancy. Our first thing we did was we filed a DFEH complaint. That's the Department of Employment and Fair Housing, and we filed a complaint with them for sex discrimination and sexual harassment. We also filed complaints with the Labor Commission for withholding wages, not paying overtime, all of those kinds of things, which actually was interesting because the supervisor used that to keep bringing her back, saying if you don't keep coming to work, because she would threaten to quit, he would say, you're never going to get paid. I'm never going to pay you all that money that I owe you. And she's a single mom. I mean, she was living paycheck to paycheck, and so she put up with this sexual harassment much longer than she might otherwise would have. But when Nancy came to us, we helped her by filing this complaint. We also helped her to get enrolled in different benefits. She'd originally been denied unemployment, and we appealed that decision, and we were able to get her those benefits to at least, hold her on. We were able to connect her with counseling. We were able to help her to find a new job as a child care provider, and just provide her with the kind of support that she needed to get out of that situation and have some confidence to move on. And, she tells us that, even though her case is still in the early stages, she says that I feel like a different person, that I feel so much better just having somebody who would listen to me, who would believe me, who would explain to me that I actually do have some rights in this situation.
Be her advocate.
Absolutely. And what's exciting about Nancy's case is that we were able to apply for funding from the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund to get additional resources. So now we can actually file a lawsuit for Nancy, and so we're in the process of drafting up her complaint, and we're hoping to very shortly in the next couple of months actually file a lawsuit against her supervisor, both the individually, independently, but also the entire company.
Terrific. That's really exciting.
Yeah, we're excited about it.
So you've really changed the trajectory of her life, clearly.
I feel that we have, and I think, when she first came to me, she was clearly traumatized, she was clearly hopeless, and, she just didn't know what she could do, and I feel like she was very brave to just come to us and ask for help, and I've really seen the transformation of her personally just through that process.
So, what is your, that's a great story. It really illustrates the impact of your work really beautifully. What's your vision for this project? What do you see, down the road? If you had, unlimited resources, what would it look like?
Well, I think the direct services part of what we do at Public Counsel is really, really important, and I don't want to lose that. I think while it's great to have impact cases and to work on policy and be able to look at the big picture and the systemic issues, the impact that we have on individual lives is huge. And so I want to continue to build up our program, particularly in this area of employment rights. I think that there's a real need out there that's not being met by low-income, low-wage workers. And I think that there's a lot more that we can do in that front. Beyond that, I would like to see us doing more outreach and education in the community. I think there's a lot of people who still don't know what their rights are or where to go for help. Or they're reluctant to go for help because they feel like they can't afford an attorney, or because they have, their concerns about their immigration status, or for whatever reason they're not even taking advantage of the rights that they have.
Right.
And so I'd really like to see us get out there and be very proactive about raising awareness of what people's rights are and how they can go about enforcing those. And then, ultimately, I would like to see us get involved in one or two impact cases that are really going to make a difference for a number of people across California. And we haven't figured out yet what that is, but I know that there are opportunities out there, and I'm looking forward to that.
Terrific. I should mention two things. One is certainly anyone who's viewing now, if they are in need of these types of services or know someone that is in need, this is a terrific new resource at Public Counsel, and I would encourage people to take advantage. Secondly, I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention Audrey Irmas. Audrey very generously funded your project about 2 years ago, and she continues to be a significant supporter. And we really appreciate your help, Audrey, if you're listening.
No, absolutely. I mean, we would not be here if it wasn't for Audrey Irmas and her very generous contribution, which has enabled us to do this work. And, I really feel that this is something we want to continue. We want to really make this an institutional part of Public Counsel. I think there's so many opportunities, I think, right now to address issues impacting women. Right now we're focusing specifically on those economic issues, but there's a million more, as you know, and there's so many women in need of help.
Certainly. No, that's great. I think we're going to wrap up. If there's any other story that you wanted to share.
I'm happy to tell you another story.
Sure, let's have another story. Yes.
Well, this is just an example of a story of somebody who came to us through one of the other Public Counsel projects. And this woman's name was Frida, and she had been in the foster care system. She was a young woman, about 24 years old, and she had come to us initially because she had lost one of her children while she was in foster care and had given that child up to guardianship. And she came to Public Counsel seeking the possibility of getting her child back. But what we found out was that, quite unknown to her, when she was in foster care, she had gotten into an argument with somebody, and apparently charges had been filed against her. And she was a legal permanent resident of the United States, but when she left the States to go visit family in Mexico and tried to come back, they basically said, look, you can't come back. You've got, a criminal arrest pending. And so they took away her green card. They wouldn't let her back into the country. Frida was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I've never been arrested. I've never been charged with anything. I don't even know what's going on. And so she contacted Public Counsel, and we were able to do some sleuthing and find out what was happening, and at least get her green card back to her and to restore her status as a legal permanent resident while this criminal case was pending. And then we were able to sort of intervene with the district attorney's office and with her public defender to advocate for her and advocate for her and advocate for her and keep her on the radar, because of course they all have 400 cases.
Right.
and try to explain the circumstances under which this incident had happened and why the felony charges that they were bringing against her were completely absurd under the circumstances and didn't take into account, you know, her history of abuse, of mental illness, and all of those things. And by just advocating with them and providing documents and providing letters from social workers and people that she had worked with over the years, they really dramatically dropped the charges against her. They wouldn't dismiss them completely, but we got it down from a felony assault, which would have meant deportation for her immediately, as well as quite a bit of time in jail, to just a simple battery and community service. And so she was able to take care of that. She was able to restore her immigration status. She was able to protect her Section 8 housing, which was also at risk because of what had happened. And now she's back on her feet. She had her baby. Did I tell you she was pregnant at the time? Okay. She was also pregnant at the time, 9 months pregnant at the time, and at risk of losing her housing. So there were so many things going on with her, and we just sort of sat down and said, okay, what do we need to do? And we just one by one, we tried to help her overcome each of those different obstacles. And now she's back on her feet. She's with her daughter. She's going back to school.
Amazing.
She wants to start a beauty supply business. And I just feel really grateful that we were there for her at that time, because there was just so many things going on. I don't think she would have been able to navigate that on her own.
Incredible. We've now heard a few stories where there's like a snowball effect sometimes, when one incident can snowball into a whole array of, housing issues, legal issues, legal status issues. And this is a great story to illustrate how
And that's just really not uncommon with the population we serve. I would say that most of the women that come through our doors are presenting with not only one legal issue, but often multiple legal issues, as well as a host of non-legal issues.
Yes.
And so what we try to do is provide a holistic service as is possible and make sure that our clients get the help that they need. And if we can't provide it directly, we use our referral network to make sure that they get that help, whether it's with housing, counseling, whatever that is.
Terrific. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, that's all our time that we have for this particular session. I want to thank you, Jill, for coming in.
Thank you
for our
for having
Facebook
me.
Live Giving Tuesday session. If you are moved or interested in Jill's work with women and girls, please hit that donate button at the bottom of your Facebook page. Every single dollar coming in today is greatly appreciated, regardless of the amount. We have an unusual situation with our Board of Directors for Public Counsel providing a $50,000 match today for every dollar coming in. So $1 for dollar match up to $50,000. So please take advantage. Please support our work. We really appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in again. Our next session is going to be at 12:30, where we're going to be hearing about children's rights with Sharon Balmer. And we look forward to hearing from you in a few minutes.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.